Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another broadcast of Breaking Voices. Today we have some very interesting guests, and this is a live stream. So those of you out there could certainly stream this live, or you can look at the stream as it's on today on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever your social media platforms are. So we have today our guest is Dr. Hattie, and he is my co-host today. Mr. Jamie Fox, he's not here at this point in time, but we have Mr. Daryl Berger. We
Hello.
have Mr. Logan McClellan, and we have Mrs. Angela Kelly. So just to let you guys know that I have a couple of things that I must say before we start. So today we have an economy of about $2.1 trillion. And we have a combined federal and national debt of $2.18 trillion. Ladies and gentlemen, we are spending more than we are actually bringing in. We have a household debt to income of 180%. That means for every single dollar, we are spending $1.80. We cannot run our homes like this. Our foreign reserve is $116 billion. We should have at least close to $1 trillion in foreign reserves. So basically, we are bankrupt. Gold reserves are next to nothing. So we have $0 in the gold reserves. Our population growth is 41 million people currently. And so the healthcare system is broken in this country. Housing prices have gone up and we have no housing. And so I will ask these guests to make their input into this program and to let the viewers know across Canada or wherever you are in the world listening. And so I am going to ask these beautiful guests to let us know who they are, give us a short, brief description of who they are. So let's go from the very top, Dr. Hattie.
Thank you for inviting me for this to host with you, Harold. It's such an honor to be involved in the community and to hopefully inspire business owners and employees and people who are listening to the show to find a way to boost this economy and to motivate politicians and people who are in power and find new ways, brainstorm, hopefully pull this country out of the economy that we're in into a more prosperous economy. I am an orthodontist. I work in the United States and in Canada on PEI. I also work on philanthropy with refugees, and I've done search and rescue for quite some time. So a lot of work in the community that I try to stay on top of at the same time, practicing orthodontics and treating pain, orifacial pain, TMJ, and headaches as well. That's it about me in a nutshell.
And you go right ahead.
Hi, thank you for the invite, Harold, to join you, and Hattie
You're
for
welcome.
asking me to join as well. My name is Angela Kelly, and I'm a small business manager here in Summerside. I've been here 20 years, and our business has been in operation for 25. And we own a small property. My husband and I also in Fernwood. So I've been here. I say I'm a Newfie at heart, but I'm an Islander by choice. So I love this place. Happy to call it home.
Awesome. Daryl.
Yes, good day. Thanks, Harold and Hattie, for having me on the show. It's great to have an opportunity to share concerns about the country and the direction that we're going. My background is I'm a small business owner. I do consulting and management systems, dealing with continuous improvement and ISO standards. I've worked with the industry, both the pulp and paper converting, box making, and wallpaper, then on and into automotive. So automotive companies, including Magna and Meritor heavy truck, heavy vehicle, and then into facilities management. So quite the gambit of background and expertise, which I've also started to parlay into helping consult with companies that want to stay world class and have management systems that are effective and efficient. So I've been in PEI for 2 years now. My wife has deep roots in the Acadian side of PEI, both in Tignish and in Summerside. So share some of that background with Logan as well from the west side of the island. So I'm glad to be on the panel and looking forward to your questions.
Awesome. Logan?
Well, yes, to the other guests' points, thank you very much for having me on. And it's exciting. I listen to podcasts every night to go to sleep, actually, believe it or not. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
I think that's a
it's
good
what I
thing.
do. So maybe yours will be one of those there soon, Harold, after this one.
Awesome.
So yeah, I live in Summerside, born and raised in Summerside, run a small business in Summerside. I've been in politics now for over 6 years. I ran in the 2019 federal election, and we had a great result, although it didn't get us over the finish line. It was one of the closest results in PEI. It actually was the closest result in PEI in over a decade since I was in high school, and I'm now 31 in May. So my background in small business here in PEI kind of spans across this riding, which for anyone who doesn't know, the riding of Egmont is from Summerside to North Cape. And as of the end of this month, we'll also include Bedeck and some other surrounding communities. So I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about why I'm in politics and how that kind of relays with me here in Egmont. So excited to have that conversation as we continue the conversation further.
Awesome. Well, the program is open up now to all of you guys, so you guys can start saying what you need to say, and we can start with probably Daryl. Daryl, if you want to start with your side of the story.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I'd like to let everybody know that, in the 2 years I've been here, I've really wanted to engage more with the community. I've been a long-time conservative member federally and provincially. So I joined both parties and sit on the boards for Cardigan and also for Charlottetown. I also represented PEI on the National Constitution Committee for the Conservative Party. That really got me thinking and motivated to actually throw my hat in the ring and become the candidate for nomination for the Conservative Party to represent them in Cardigan. So really interested in how the community is managing with the economy and how they're managing with things like housing and different pressures that we have, the unique issues for the island as compared to Ontario, which I grew up in. So with that being on this panel and the topics that you've got, GDP, the debt, dealing with taxes and taxation, how we're going to handle things like housing, crime, poverty, those things. Really looking forward to discussing with this panel.
Oh, great. Logan?
Yeah, to kind of a few of Daryl's points. For me, currently, the state of the country, I truly believe is broken. And I think right now it's, for my generation, the next generation, it's crucial that we have people step up. So I'm excited to kind of further this conversation a little bit more. To a few of the points that were mentioned earlier, housing is impossible. Things are getting so expensive and continue to get more expensive by the day. Healthcare is in disarray, and this country is on a path that none of us want to see. So excited to kind of share a little bit deeper as we continue on with this conversation. But one of the reasons why I had stepped up was for that next generation, as someone who's about to be 31. I have no kids yet or anything along those lines, but I kind of struggle to see what the future will hold for Canada, and I think there is hope, and I'm looking forward to kind of telling you about some of our ideas and what we want to bring to the table to kind of put Canada on the right path.
Yeah, Canadians need to know the truth about the whole thing, and I think Canada is in a situation right now. If you listen to the National Post a couple of days ago, it says, and this is from the Information of Freedom, and they requested that a while back, and the RCMP said that if citizens know the state of the economy, there will be riots in the street. I don't know if you all is aware of that. And so basically, Canada is broken. Sorry to say it. We have no money. We are funding all of these programs by what? Loans and Bank of Canada printing dollars. Angie, from your experience, what's happening?
So I think that, working in the storefront every day, you have people come in and there's a lot of heavy concern regarding affordability for housing, for food, make a decision like, am I going to pay my power bill or am I going to eat? And then we have a senior clientele that, they're not making it month to month at all, especially on their old age pension. And then, if they lose their partner, then, their expenses are higher and they definitely don't have enough to cover it. So as much as we want to see our elders stay home for as long as they can't afford to. And it's a growing concern, not only for our older generation, but our younger generation as well. Because with the cost of housing for a young couple today, to be able to go out and purchase a house is near impossible. So there's a lot of growing concern between that. But on a personal belief, I don't think that, it's only our government's responsibility. I think that us as Canadian citizens have to step up as well and start putting the trust back into each other, to start helping like we did before and bring people up to meet their means to try to help other people. So it's a catch-22.
I heard you. Dr. Hattie?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Angie, and Harold as well, the main issue that I'm seeing, and being in the States and in Canada, going through several political changes in the last few years as a business owner, what makes or breaks the society is small businesses. And to Angie's point, you see people come in day to day, to their daily dealings, and you notice if the economy is doing better, you notice that, and if the economy is not doing good, you notice that. So to our politicians and to people who are in politics, and especially when we look at the Conservative Party and parties that are more focused on reviving society, small businesses, helping people, the building blocks of society come together and revamp the economy and restart and push that vehicle forward. What would you think, Daryl? What would be the thing that we need to focus on right now politically to revive small businesses, to bring them more resources, labor laws that are more manageable in a way that doesn't break the small business owner after being in business for a few years?
Yes, thanks for the question. I think I would echo that, small business is an economic driver and engine for the country, and they need to be enabled to succeed on the world stage as well as domestically. I think small business really needs to thrive and have incentive to do that and not be taxed. I think taxes are a big thing. If we take the carbon tax one, for example, there were supposed to be rebates given to small business. The government has yet to deal with any rebates to small business, to my knowledge. And, that's really curbing and hurting and stifling the economy. I think that's just one example of how the small business is having trouble. I think also other taxes that are coming to the forefront are going to be more, whether that's a payroll tax or a higher income tax for business. I think those things are a disincentive for them to grow and thrive. Small business take a lot of risks on in their business. They need to be able to be assured of those risks being manageable before they invest in hiring new staff or buying new equipment or growing their business. I think those things really are not the focus of this current government. At least they may talk the talk, but they're not walking the walk where they're helping out with with the small business. So those are a couple of my comments.
Logan, what would be your input?
Yeah, so for myself, I run a small business as well, just like the both of you, all of you. So I find just in my day-to-day business, you're constantly dealing with red tape. Uh, there's applications on applications. If you're ever trying to deal with something, whether that's on the compliance side of the business or just if you're working with government in any capacity, CRA, whoever, filing taxes, you almost need a business to run the small business. Sometimes it feels like. So I think when we have so much government overreach inside of small businesses, it's not a good thing. It makes Canada less attractive for individuals who want to move here and start a small business. To Daryl's point, having increase with a carbon tax is not a good thing, and then also on the payroll tax side of things, and with the current state of the economy on how expensive everything is. So when you're running a business, obviously there's a lot that goes out the door, and whenever the economy is this expensive, it makes it almost impossible to hire staff, retain staff, bring in new people, or if you want to expand the business, it kind of puts businesses in reverse. So in this current economy, it's great for large corporations because they're getting government handouts, but small businesses, they keep getting the brunt of everything. So just my points on it. I think we really have to kind of shift the mindset. Small business at the end of the day is one of the things that makes our economy grow, and we have to really support small business and move the government out of the way.
And you heard that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I did sit on the board with Downtown Summerside for a number of years, and even though I haven't been on that board in a number of years, even then the growing concern was how to sustain itself in an economic development that was declining and at a very quick rate. And then when you look at your health care in the struggles that we're having in our system nationwide, it's not only provincially, it's everywhere. And the decline in doctors and nurses and even down to the janitorial staff and the lack of supports that they're finding that they have. If you ever follow Doug Griffith in 13 Ways to Kill Your Community, one of the things are if you take out the things that drive people to move to your community, such as your health care and your water and everything else, then why do people want to move here? So when you think of it as a country as a whole, with economic downfall that's happening and then our healthcare system, it makes you wonder how this population growth that the political government is trying to retain over the next number of years, what would be an incentive to move here? So provincially as well. There's a lot of different things within the downtown businesses, even recently with the payback up to $60,000, 40,000 paid back with a 20,000 exemption. There was a lot of struggle in that for a lot of businesses that I've talked to within the downtown. And they were like, you want to give your staff a raise because they're more than deserving of having it, but you need the income coming in to be able to do it. And now with this repayment of this on top of it, they actually felt like they were 10 times set back, 10 years set back than they were going forward with the help of that loan. So a lot of them don't feel like it had benefited at all. It's hard. It's a hard time to be trying to sustain a small business right now.
Yeah, you couldn't have put it better. And correct me if I'm wrong. Harold. I think with the current economy, we really have to motivate people, like Angela was saying, to move to the community, to revive the community. But we live in a dynamic world. There are things happening every day. There are changes. The pandemic hit us a few years back. The hurricane. All of these things are dynamic, changing. So with our leaders, our politicians, our community leaders, having Chamber of Commerce and different things that operate in the community, we need visionaries to see, okay, what is happening right now? How can we capitalize on what is happening? How can we make the best out of it and push the economy wheel forward? And that's what I think in a lot of times that we are not finding. Politicians and leaders are more concerned about their positions, their constituents that are focused on one thing, issues that don't really drive the country forward. Actually, a lot of them drive us backwards, and that's what they're focused on. That's what they're stuck at. They're doing all these different laws to reduce crime, but crime is on the rise because they're not handling the issues that really improve this area. So going back to you, Daryl, please give us some insight on this. It could feel frustrating to some of us at some times, and I know there is light at the end of the tunnel with people like you being in this community.
Yeah, I guess one comment I wanted to add about the business side of it too is from 2014 till now, there's been a 20% decrease in business investment per worker in Canada. That's declined. So it really puts people behind in terms of economic growth and development. On the crime side, I think when people are not working and gainfully employed, they may turn to other things. They may look for an easy way to succeed and may turn to some criminal activity. I think with crime, there needs to be strong deterrence for crime. So if you actually do commit a felony or an act, there has to be a measured punishment, and I think people need to know that going in. When they are charged or arrested by the police, there seem to be out the next day. And you call it almost a catch and release policy or plan. And the police get really frustrated because they see the same characters day in and day out. And then the citizens get upset because crime is on the rise. I think when you have a poor economy and you have a poor management of things for the economy, then crime seems to bubble up. I think we need to really have a strong economy, give people hope and a vision for prosperity, and then they won't need to turn as much to crime. I think the other thing is for our security, we need to support our police and give them the tools that they need to actually solve crime and reduce repeat offenses. They need to be able to do that and not have their hands tied or be curbed from that from some sentiment in some of the bureaucracy perhaps is doing that. I think we really need to look at crime on a whole, and really it ties to the economy and the community. So if you have a solid community and good social programs there, that can help reduce or curb or deter people from turning to crime.
So Logan, this question is for you.
Okay.
Canada basically has no cash reserves. We have more debt than we're actually bringing in. How are we going to solve this problem?
Well, first and foremost, we have to make Canada more attractive. Step number one, we have to change government. And how will that make a difference? How will changing a government make a difference? Okay, well, step number one, we can change our policies focused on Canadians, not other countries and different focus groups, and spending X amount of dollars on apps that cost millions and millions of dollars and get nothing back on that. We have to actually focus on some of the issues that we've already brought forward today. So small businesses, like Daryl had said, the small business economy is slowing down. So if the economy continues to move forward in a positive direction, in a cash flow direction, then the economy will move forward in a positive direction. But that's easier said than done. Number one, we have to start reducing taxes. We have to cut the carbon tax. And more businesses inside of Canada and individuals who are successful and having their paychecks actually mean something, incentivizing work, will actually cash flow the economy. And that's exactly what we need to focus on in the short term. That's my opinion on it. And I think in our current market right now, that we're seeing from our current government is that they just want to spend with no plans. So we have to have a Canada first mentality and focus on what makes Canada the greatest country in the world. What can we offer as Canadians? And ultimately, with us right now in this economy, it is crucial that we make sure that we stop taxing individuals to death and focus on building industry and making powerful paychecks within Canada.
Yeah, I fully take your points. I have the opportunity to travel quite a bit, and I have seen how progressive some of these Eastern countries like Dubai and UAE, a lot of these Eastern countries are progressing at a faster rate of speed than us. We had a 0.6% growth rate in this country, and at that rate, we are not going to do very, very well. We are not exporting a whole lot, except that now we are having the natural gas issue that we are having, and a lot of countries want our natural gas. And
we have to get
present,
energy to market, absolutely.
Yeah, and the present government is probably, I don't know, but they're not doing a good enough job to export our LNG.
Yeah. So actually here on, on the East Coast, I mean, we're buying Saudi Arabian oil, right? So like we have a pipeline, we had multiple pipeline projects that have been completely pushed off the radar. That's not being brought to market. And we have some of the cleanest energy in the world. And we should have a pipeline coming to the East Coast. We should be buying our energy from other countries. We need to be exporting energy. It's, we have this resource here. It's an amazing resource to have. And we have to figure out ways to get that to market. And we can't keep having our resources on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm. So, Daryl, I'm coming back to you now. So, as I said earlier, we don't have the money anymore. And according to, as I said earlier, the RCMP says that Canada is broke. And in not too distant future, if Canadians know what is happening with respect to the economy, there would be riots on the streets. Now, knowing that we don't have that kind of money, how it is that the conservative, if there's a conservative government, how are they going to find those funds to have all these programs on stream?
I think they're going to restore the economy. I think they're going to axe the carbon tax completely and look at technology and advancement in our resources. In PEI, we have farming and we have fishing as resources. We also have tourism, but let's focus on the basics. If you look at Harold Innis' book on the fur trade, dating back a while, Canada is the hewer of wood and a drawer of water. In other words, we're a resource-based country. So if we're not harnessing all the resources, as Logan mentioned about LNG, natural gas, country after country has come to Canada cap in hand and been turned away. Greece was the latest one. Before that, Japan, Germany, asking for LNG so that they don't have to rely on the Russian fuel sources, which really hold them at ransom for in Europe. So I think we need to open the economy up. We have a ring of fire for resources in metals and minerals in Northern Ontario area. That should be, we should be looking strategically, how do we get that to market? Where are we building the roads and the necessary infrastructure to help do that? As opposed to, let's put a carbon tax on energy. Energy is how we can actually get goods and things to market, whether that's the farmer that's actually tilling the land and harvesting the crop, or the trucker that's actually got to haul it. Everything needs to be brought to the island of PEI by truck or by ship. So the fuel is integral to that process. If we're raising the price of fuel, we're raising the price of everything else, and it's really causing a huge affordability issue and a cost of living crisis. So I think for us to get out of debt as a country and stop spending with these teeny deficits that they started off, if you remember, Prime Minister Harper said that that's what Trudeau would do. He'd start with these teeny $10 billion deficits. Well, I think we're even looking now at about $46.5 billion just to service the debt because of the interest rate increases. So these are huge burdens for Canada to bear when you're taxing and spending like that. And I think we got to be really in control of our fiscal economy and balance our books a bit more so that we can actually have money for healthcare and other things that right now we're just borrowing to try and make ends meet. So that's my thoughts on that.
Angie, Dr. Hadi?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it has to be, our country almost needs to be treated like its own small business again. And you need to really get in there and you got to figure out, okay, this is what we can afford and this is what we can't. And we need to start balancing it out. And I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a long road. And I think that's what we also have to look at, is that it's not going to be just a magic button and it's going to be fixed. It's going to take time, but you need people in there who's going to be able to, almost scrutinize it and be able to sit back and say, this is where we are, this is where we need to be, and this is how we have to get there.
And what you're saying is totally correct. Now, we have the accountability office, and they don't have the funds to actually go after the forensic part of it. So there's a lot of projects that's been on stream for a long time. A lot of billions of dollars have been wasted and unaccounted for. Now, the accountability office, they don't have the funds for the auditors. And so they can't do a proper job. And if they do decide to do a proper job, they don't have the documentation. And they can't, if they don't have the documentation, they can't do a proper audit. And this is what the accountability office said, that many of the times they don't have the documentation to actually look at, let's say, the recent example of the Arrive scam. There is so much fraud that was involved in that project. And the commissioner said that they don't have documents beyond $60 million, which was supposed to cost probably, what, $80,000 at one point in time? So it has risen from $80,000 to $60 million. It probably could go to probably 80 to 100 million. Nobody knows. So this is a situation. I believe there is high corruption in Ottawa. Honestly, the RCMP is not allowed to do the jobs properly because they are basically stopped on the track. This is what I am observing. Anytime they plan to have an investigation, the ministerial office, as a matter of fact, the PMO office actually put a stop to that investigation. And you have heard many of the claims made by some of the MPs in Ottawa. They are saying this over and over again, that the police is not allowed to investigate certain things. Anything anybody have to say about that?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. I think when Canadians look at what this government is doing, they're basically hiding or obscuring a lot of the things. They're tying up committees and saying there's nothing to see. I think about the scientists in Winnipeg and how for a few years none of this came to light, that they were actually involved with the PRC and actually sharing highly sensitive secrets back to China. And even now, not all of that has come to light, and the circumstances surrounding it haven't come to light. But there's a whole pattern of this right from the start of the Trudeau government. If you think of the Jody Wilson-Raybould and how she wanted to, hold up the rule of law, and she was kind of coerced by members of the PMO to look the other way, and it ended up in her resigning. So that's one. The SNC-Lavalin scandal is another one. The WE scandal, the STDC Green Slush Fund. We don't have enough time on this podcast to go into them all. It becomes a broken record, and I think people are getting a little bit jaded about this government and its accountability. I think it's I think is a shame, really.
I know. I heard you, brother. I had a little talk recently with Matt McFarlane. I must give him credit and kudos. He's a member of the Green Party, and he's fighting for an increase in wages for the nurses and the doctors. And I say kudos to Matt for trying really hard. But there's so many issues in this country, and I don't know exactly where we should start and the questions to ask. But it's for you guys now to probably ask those questions hard if you probably end up in the parliament in Ottawa. I think there's so much to look at these days. Coast to coast, we are having a lot of issues. I mean, like, look at the poverty rate in Canada. We have about 400,000 to 500,000 people actually in poverty. The United States has probably 320, 330 million people. They have about 500,000 people are homeless. We have a 36 to 88% increase in the cost of groceries in Toronto. Gas prices has gone up. Rent has gone up to probably 100%. And just about everything in this country. So the 36% increase in your carbon tax is going to transfer over into every single product that you have. Every single item that would be out there that's trucked would be added on. And of course, the middleman has to make a profit. So what's going to happen apart from the 36% plus the tax, which is the provincial tax, plus what is supposed to be added on the other end? So we are in a crisis.
Tax on a tax as well.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, so it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. The numbers speak. Statistics don't lie.
No.
If our leaders, politicians can see the numbers, sit down with the community members, with small business owners, with large corporation owners, with people who are actually working on the ground, and come up with a plan. How can we move the economy forward? What is stalling the economy? Instead of focusing on issues and matters that don't really improve the country. What makes a great country or a great area to live in or move into? First of all, I would be looking at security. I'd be looking at justice. I'd be looking at freedoms. I'd be looking at prosperity and availability to work and capitalism. So you work hard, you get the outcome of that hard work. All these things, we have seeds of all these things in Canada. There's a lot stronger seeds about these things in the United States because of the Constitution being so founded. If we are able to revive this, to revive capitalism, you work hard, you get the outcome of that hard work. To revive security, you're safe in your home. You could, crime rates, bring them down instead of trying to chase legal gun owners and people who are law-abiding citizens. Trying to actually bring down crime and actually chase down criminals and repetitive offenders. These are issues that are handled in a very ineffective way right now. I want some inspiration from both you, Daryl, and Logan, and some input from you, Angela. How can this be revived? It's almost like we're on life support right now, just like Harold was saying. So please give us the insight.
Good question, Hattie. So the floor is for three of you guys to answer that question.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I think the first step is to change this government. This government is really set on a path that is really going backwards for us. If you look at from 2014 to now, in 2014, Canada was investing about 79 cents per worker for every dollar invested in the US. Now in 2021, it's down to 55 cents for every US dollar. So that's just some facts about where we stand. I think Canada is kind of sliding backward when you compare, our biggest trading partner, the US, and our neighbor. And another capitalist country, looking at freedom and liberty. So I think we have to change the government. That's the first step, and that's what I'm working to try to do. I think don't want to be left behind. I think Canada should be very proud, very patriotic, the true north, strong and free. I think we need to actually look at our economy and get it back on track. That starts with really scrapping the carbon tax. I think any of these affordability inhibitors or roadblocks need to be challenged and changed. I think we should be focusing on technology over a tax that really is trying to curb behavior. It's really trying to change your behavior. But again, we're a northern country. We need to heat our homes. We need to transport. We can't just get on the subway, or we can't just walk to work. A lot of us have to travel and commute. So I think we have to really change the government. That's the first step for prosperity and for hope. I think the current direction is not a good one. After, if you were in the private sector and you performed the way this government is, you would basically terminate them on performance. So I think the country needs to do that as well. And I want to help enable Canadians to make that choice and make that change. So those are a couple. If I were trying to be optimistic, I think Canada is very resilient. I think we can meet any challenge that's needed. It's not too late to do that. I think we need to do the change, but I do echo what Angela said, that it won't be done overnight. Once you find you're in a hole, you need to stop digging. That's the first thing, and then the second is to climb out of it, and you need to do that slowly and surely and methodically. So that's my comment on that one.
Yeah, just to that point. I mean, to Daryl's point, a replacement in government, it's necessary, 100%. And we have to restore hope in our country. I've been going door to door the last month, seeing individual situations that are absolutely horrible. Two hardworking individuals in a house doing everything right, but can't get ahead, are in massive debt, credit cards, you name it. Cost of living in this country is next to impossible. No housing, all the things we've already talked about. So step number one, we have to replace the current government. We have to get our energy to market. And when we replace the government, we have to actually, with the new government, have to kind of step back. This current government's whole way of governing is to be the boss, but we're the taxpayer. We're the boss. The individual Canadians are the bosses. The government doesn't have any money. They manage taxpayer money. So it has to start operating like that. Again, to Angela's point, it's not going to happen overnight, but I have hope that we can get this done. We can remove government gatekeepers, get energy to market, open up small business, reduce taxes, make Canada an attractive place to invest, live, work, and raise a family.
Great. Angie?
I agree. I think there's a number of different things. When you look at housing and affordability for housing, I think our mortgage rates are absolutely outrageous. I feel that there needs to be a decrease in that. If any couple or person today is going to be able to keep their home on 2 full-time salaries, or one, or even to be able to afford a house in the future, the rates need to go down. I think with our law enforcement, they need the proper supports put in place where they can be a proactive law enforcement instead of a reactive one like it has been. And I think that that will help improve the crime and everything that's happening. On top of that, our healthcare is tricky because we need our doctors, we need our staff, we need our people there. The pandemic definitely caused a lot of burnout for a number of professionals, which is hard to see because they're also members of our community. There are neighbors, there are, the children, there are next door people growing up. The elders are having a hard time for affordability, especially, and then small businesses struggling. So you're right, it won't happen overnight, but there needs to be things put in place. Trust needs to be bought back for the people who we are elected to represent us. And I think that when you have a federal government that is taxing and dishing out the money, but not being accountable for it. And then we have provincial, where people are wanting to see the change and putting the trust into change, but they feel like they're not necessarily getting the change they were looking for. It makes it for a hard time. People don't know where to be or what their thoughts should be on who to elect or who to better represent them, because they're having a hard time seeing the accountability on both sides. So I think it's going to be a lot of building back trust. I think that it's going to come down to, if you're an elected member, helping the residents in your riding, then accountability is going to be big on a provincial level and a federal level, for sure.
Dr. Hadi? I think we lost his volume.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right. I can't hear on that, but I'm gonna add to what Angela has said. I agree with all of your inputs. I'm very inspired by everything you said, Daryl, everything you said. Your input from the ground, Angela, and what you've seen in the community. We just have to keep motivating each other, end result in mind, and be this forward.
So I'm seeing two pictures of you, Dr. Hadi, just to let you know. I don't know how to take that off from the screen, but just to let you know. But anyway, yeah, those are some very, very valid points. And Canada is in a situation today that I wouldn't say enviable, but at one point in time, Canada was the best country in the world for many, many years. Our passport has now gone from number 1 to number 25 or 26 in the world. It's that bad. And I said earlier that we don't have a way where we could actually make gainway in the respect to the rest of the world. The rest of the world is very competitive, and I don't know how we are going to do that, especially with Chinese growth that is probably 6 and 7%. India is about the same thing now, and a lot of these Eastern countries, their growth is staggering. I mean, like 4, 5, 6% in Canada, and United States, they're roughly 1 to 2% maximum. So we're in a very, very difficult position right now to compete in the rest of the world. But it's a struggle. And I think, honestly, what's happening in Parliament these days, I think a lot of voters should question what's happening there. And people need to do research to know what is happening across this country, because it's a very frightful picture.
Mhm.
Anybody has anything to say beyond that?
I have a couple points on that,
Yeah.
Harold. Just how you had mentioned, it's a competitive world. How are we going to bring Canada back? Like I had touched on earlier, bringing our energy to market is important, but also on the other side of it, instead of us putting a tax for climate change, having a carbon tax on individuals that is nothing more than a government cash grab, we need to export technologies to these other countries. So if you look at our global emissions, I think we're under 2% of global emissions here in Canada. So we can export our technologies to these other countries, like you had mentioned, China, who's upwards of 25% of global emissions. That could be a great avenue for us to continue to build Canada up on the world stage, be the innovators. We have some of the best technology in the world that we can streamline and export, and we have the cleanest energy, and there's lots of opportunities for Canada to get back on the map and be that competitive country that we once were. So I'm hopeful that we can get that done.
Yeah, I myself, we all love Canada. And Canada is an envy of the world, as you know. It's one of the most beautiful countries. But politics is always an issue here, and if you don't have good directive, we will be where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about accountability in government offices these days, it's a big issue. There's no transparency anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And we, the taxpayers, we don't have much to say. Yes, we do have a vote every couple of years, 4 or 5 years, and that's about it. And even though you write and sign petition, nobody listens to us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the issues that a lot of us is having.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's listening.
Yeah, just on that point really quickly, like, the attitude of the current government is they're the boss, right? But in reality, like I had mentioned, the taxpayer is the boss, and we elect the government, and they're supposed to go there and represent us and not have this top-down mentality that they continue to push, like, calling small business owners tax cheats and giving money out to their friends and different consultants, and hire this huge government, and then hiring consultants to do their job. A lot of the stuff they're doing just makes zero sense, and continues to push our economy into a negative spiral. So I think it's crucial now, in the next election, that we replace the government, give a new government the opportunity to start working on these issues, fix these problems, and restore Canada.
So, Logan, my question to you, it would be
Sure.
this. So if the government doesn't listen to the voters, what's next?
They have to listen to the voters.
Well, actually, they're not listening to the voters right now, because the
I
majority of people
100%.
says we just don't want the carbon tax. And the government, how many premiums? 7 to 8 premiums now?
Yeah.
They're actually saying no to the carbon tax, right, Daryl?
70% of premiums, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have 7 out of 10 premiers now. Even Wapkanu in Manitoba is on the edge of saying, hey, at least put a spike to the hike of the.
We just lost Daryl again.
But
Somebody
I
could,
can answer that if he's
Yeah.
if he's gone. Yeah, so exactly 7 out of 10 premiers have asked for the carbon tax to be on pause, and current government is not listening, right? So that would be a failing government, right? And luckily, we are in a democracy, and we have the opportunity to vote them out
Mhm.
and go with a government that will listen to voters.
Yeah. So, Angie, let me ask you this question. If a government is in power, whether they want to come or the current government is not listening to the voters, shouldn't there be a mechanism whereby we could actually say, okay, you know what? So you're not listening to the voters. We have voted you into power. Just as we could fire an employee after probably a couple of weeks of notice, maybe 2 weeks, a day's notice, should we not have a system here in this country whereby we could fire an MP or a prime minister or a government worker with respect to the same laws that applies to the general public? Angie, you answer the question.
Right, I agree with you. I think there needs to be a whole lot more accountability than there is. I mean, when we sit back and we look at the healthcare announcements, even here for Prince County Hospital, not that long ago, and we had a town hall meeting, and I mean, hundreds of people showed up at our town hall meeting, and nurses were crying out, and janitorial were crying out that the bonuses that were given didn't go to everybody fairly. And then yet our own legislation turned it down afterwards. Like, these are things that people lose trust in those people that we're electing in for us. So if we sit back and say that it's our political people are supposed to be listening to us and helping us, well, that's a prime example that they may be listening, but there's no change in that. So where's the accountability? How do you keep someone accountable? If they were listening to the people in the room that night, they would never turn down that vote. Never.
Absolutely.
Right? So when you sit back and you look at whether it's a provincial issue or a municipal issue or it's a federal issue, there has to be a better way to keep the people accountable. And if they're not accountable for it, then out.
Yeah.
Bring somebody else in who can do the job.
Exactly. So, Daryl, I think we lost connection with you a while ago, so you could continue now.
Yeah,
Daryl?
I think in the United States they have a recall system where you can recall a sitting elected official if they're not performing to their mandate or they're not meeting the constituents' needs. That'd be an interesting thing to table in Canada. Our Constitution doesn't set up for that, but I'm sure they could work on some type of legislation where that's involved. I think right now when you have a minority government and it's propped up by a third party like the NDP or even the Bloc Québécois at times, depending on their political opportunism and what they want to exact from the government in terms of benefits and advances. I think that makes it a little trickier. And with a parliamentary system and a minority, this one has gone way longer than the average one does, and it looks like it will continue for another year on this same pattern. So I don't think things are going to get better tomorrow about it, but I think that voters do remember. I just hope they don't have a short memory span, that they do remember this come October 2025, if that's as far down the path we have to go.
Well, I'll tell you one thing for sure, that voters, when they go to the grocery stores and they go to the gas stations, and wherever you go and you find the prices are increasing continuously, then we have a problem. We really have a problem. And this is going to have a ripple effect across this country from coast to coast to coast. And I don't think it should just be a one-party thing. It should be all parties getting together to solve this issue, because this is a big, big issue in Canada. Yeah. And I wish that in Ottawa things could get better with respect to the different groups that we have there, but it doesn't seem to have a remedy for that.
I think you're right on that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Angela.
I said I agree with Harold with that. I think there comes a point in time where even though color party, but I think at some point in time you're a resident, you're a Canadian citizen as well. And I think at some point in time, all of them need to come together and make a decision that's best for the whole country, not just what they feel that they want to see happen as a party. So I think that until people put their, hate to say it this way, but ego aside a little bit and step up and do the job that they're there to do, then it's going to be a bit of a journey, but I hope that eventually it's going to get there and take a turn for the best.
So to your point and to Daryl's point, voters, I think there needs to be a lot of voter education or enlightenment, showing them what we need to look for in the community, because what's happening right now, it's almost like a drug. You're offering them free healthcare, you're offering them free money if you sit at home, you're offering them all this stuff that those parties are offering, but nothing to move the economy forward. The transparency about how much can this economy afford before it breaks and falls apart is not there. Everybody's milking it, and then it's going to go dry. So helping the voters understand what matters, looking at the prices at the pump, looking at the grocery prices, cost of living, the infrastructure. Canada has a lot of clusters of cities where a lot of people are clustered in, but there's a lot of areas that are available to be improved and communities to be created. So all of these things, and I think Daryl really hit it on the head, and Angela followed on that. So
yeah, you guys could follow up on any other points that you might have.
I remember. How do you remind me of when the Harper government was in? They had these signs everywhere, Plan Canada. So they did showcase and let citizens know about infrastructure projects that they were funding and backing. I think it was Minister Guilbeault who said he wasn't going to build any big roads or do anything like that. See, that's the wrong-headedness that I think is leading us in the wrong direction. I think we do need to build infrastructure. I think about after the hurricane here in PEI, we need to really build back the wharves a bit more and maybe increase them a bit so we can offer a lot of support for the fishermen in how they get the catch to market. So I think infrastructure is important. When we look at the ferry system out in Wood Islands to Caribou, we're kind of limping along. We brought in a kind of a stopgap or a Band-Aid ferry from Quebec, which if the winds go up to 20 knots, it has to be moored. So this is not a good solution. This is just a Band-Aid again until they promise again 2028 for a new vessel. We'll see if that comes to pass. Back to our earlier talk about efficacy and trust of politicians. We'll see. I think PEIers, Islanders really need these things. It's not just to rely on the bridge. and hope everything goes well. We saw in Maryland, how vulnerable key infrastructure can be if it gets knocked out. If it happened in PEI, we'd, I think, be in a world of pain for the foreseeable future. So infrastructure is very important. I mentioned earlier the Ring of Fire in Northern Ontario and how we're going to get materials and minerals to market. The LNG gas was another one. We could be doing a lot better on that as well. Our farmers, we shouldn't be telling them not to use fertilizer or materials based on the World Economic Forum, what they would like to see happen in a kind of a post-national world. I think we need to support our farmers. You've seen internationally, farmers are getting up and protesting these type of policies. I hope that the Trudeau NDP government don't go down that path. I think we have to really support farmers, and they are the stewards of the land. They know best how to practice and economize with any of the resources that they have. So I think we should listen to them first before we put these type of policies in place that are, in my view, ideological and maybe not best for Canada first.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like when you look at the broad spectrum, you realize that Canada need to export a lot more because we have the world of natural resources here, and you talk about the Ring of Fire, and we have just about we are blessed in Canada to have probably the amount of resources we have in this country. We could probably supply the planet. Thing about it is that we have the environmental movement is one of the big issues, and we had that with respect to the pipelines that was run across in Alberta for years and years, and it was suppressed. And we have other issues that comes up from time to time, and we have a long delay in the court system. So there's a mountain of issues that we have to deal with. But I wish we could take away the red tape and make things easy and more accessible. Lower the income tax rate, increase investment into this country, bring technology, as Darrell said. Canada bring in a lot of people from around the world, the best and the brightest. Use these technologies, but America is actually taking the people who are here and back into the States, and they're developing the technologies. So we should have a system whereby if you enter into Canada, let's say as a student, and Canada has helped you with respect to your student loans or whatever it might be, you should be able to work for a number of years in Canada, give back to Canada, then obviously you can certainly move on. But right now, you could come to Canada, finish your master's or your PhD, and head right into the States, and the States would love to have you. So we're not holding our valuables, which is the people. And so a lot of our scientists and doctors are moving where they're getting more money, obviously. And I know in PEI, the problem with respect to salaries is a big thing. Ontario salaries is totally different. It's much more than PEI. And the doctors and the nurses are overworked and they're overburdened. So the healthcare system that we have here is basically on life support, and not only here, across Canada. And we need to do things about it. But I wish in my lifetime I could see whereby, I just talked to Angie about that, we could actually fire a politician if that politician doesn't do his job. And don't give them 4 years, but give them probably 2 weeks notice maximum and say, hey, this is it. You're not doing your job, out of here. And this includes the Prime Minister and every single member of Parliament. This is my stance. Maybe a lot of people would disagree, but I think that people are in pain right now to see what is happening to Canada. And Canada is actually, as I tell you, in the next 5 years projection, is heading down that precipice. And if people don't wake up across this country, we are in for hell. I'm sorry, but this is the truth. I didn't say it alone, but I've read a lot of reports from a lot of people that saying the very same thing, that Canada is heading down the precipice.
Yeah, circling back on this healthcare issue that Angie raised and you followed up on, Harold, I have yet to be able to convince any of my colleagues to move to PEI, and not for the lack of trying. They've made it so difficult. I tried to practice on PEI 1 week and in the United States for 1 week, just to keep my sanity and keep everything in check. but there needs to be real motivation. There needs to be encouragement and support for young doctors or physicians from different specialties to move to the island to provide to this community, because this community is in need.
Absolutely. So we are just going to wrap up in just a couple of minutes. If I could go around the table and probably you could have your summation and just say, well, what you have to say to the public, because this could probably reach very far across Canada and across PEI and wherever these listeners are coming from. So address the listeners across Canada and the rest of the world. Start with Angie.
Put me on the spotlight. Actually, thank you to the both of you and the whole panel, actually, for having me and being able to join in on the conversation. It's much appreciated. To anyone who's listening, I think that we are the people who decide who gets to be our voice. And I think that us, the people, need to make them more accountable. So if you have feelings that that you need to voice your concern, and we need to be heard. So keep voicing until they finally listen, because it's the only way things are going to actually get changed.
Absolutely. Logan? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for the invitation, Harold.
You're welcome.
It's been fantastic, and thank you to every single one of you on the panel, Dr. Hattie, Angie, Daryl. I just wanted to. I know we touched on a lot of things here that are negative right now, but I wanted to express this, and I've mentioned it a few times. That I do believe there's hope in this country, and we have to restore hope. We have to replace this current government and start digging ourselves out of this current hole. It's crucial for the next generation, for me, you, and everyone who wants to work hard in this country, raise a family, and do exactly what Canadians want to do. Just have a simple life, or become, the next prime minister, or start that new business, or whatever you want to do. We need to have Canada back on track and working for people, working for Canadians, not the government working for large enterprises and personal interests. Dan's point, we need government working for the people. Thank you.
Absolutely. Daryl, your turn.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Harold and Hattie, and
welcome.
Angela and Logan, for the opportunity to speak tonight and share, our thoughts about the country. I think Canada is the true north, strong and free. I do think, we've had some bumps in the road since 2014, and looking to see that we make some change, positive change. When I'm on my stump speech or doing my elevator speech, the government right now is not listening to Canadians, as evidenced by things like the carbon tax and other measures. They're creating some problems, and some of the problems are really affordability, cost of living, taxation. I think these problems need to be solved, and we need positive change. That's what I'm looking to do door to door, representing the Cardigan residents and Islanders as I embarked on this initiative to challenge for the nomination for the Conservative Party. I thought I had a really good handle on the items that need to be done, but going door to door and listening to individual stories and really connecting with the community about what's needed. I think first I need to listen, and then I need to be able to absorb that and make positive change. Really represent the folks of Cardigan, and hopefully be a voice for them in Ottawa. That's really what I'm doing. I may be complaining in that. I've told folks, if you're getting into politics, it's not a spectator sport. You can sit on the sideline and you can comment about it, or you can get active and do something about it. And I would say to the listeners, do that. If you want change, you can be the change you want to see. Join a party, get involved with your community, help and support, whether it's at a food bank or a community event. All of those things help build a better Canada, and that's what I'd like to leave as a message.
Absolutely. Dr. Hattie?
I want to thank all of the guests. I want to thank you, Angela. Thank you, Daryl. And thank you, Logan, for all of your input and insights. You gave us hope. And I think there's a lot of hope for this country. What a beautiful country we live in. How much resources we have, how much abilities we have, and people that are in this country that want to move it forward and better the country. I think with all of us coming together and making the change, starting with ourselves, just like Daryl was saying, and moving this forward, there's so much hope, and I'm very excited for the future.
Absolutely. And I could still say one thing, that Canada is still the best country on the planet. And it's such a beautiful country, but we are having some issues. But these issues could be fixed, for sure. And we need to get together. We can't work in separated groups as we have currently in Parliament. And the same thing is happening in the United States of America. Same identical issue they're having too. We have the Democrats and you have the Republicans. And so it's always an issue. But we wish to work together in this country to rebuild Canada, not a party. We need to move forward, dynamic. We need to show growth in whatever areas we are, but we can still be the emblem of the world. I am sure if today we look probably in the next 10 years, Canada could be that emblem in the world to look forward to. And for ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, I thank you so much for watching the show and downloading the podcast. And thank you very much for streaming, and hope to see you guys next time around, and all the best in the election, probably in a year and a half time, maybe earlier, we never know. Angie, it has been a pleasure. Dr. Hattie.
Thank you.
Logan, Daryl, it
Thank
has
you.
been a pleasure, and looking forward sometime down the future again.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Voices. Please subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon.